Thank you for tuning in to Beyond Evidence. And I'm so excited today to have our guest in the studio, retired Mayor of Auburn, Miss Linda Blechinger. I'm so excited that she's with us. Linda's just such a dear person to me and a dear person in my heart. You know, you really can't put a package on how a private investigator is supposed to be or what they're supposed to do. And she's just a warm person. And I'm so excited she's got her PI license. And so I want to introduce her, and maybe she can tell us a little bit of how much fun she's having.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate being invited today. Being able to work with you, Robin, it's really been very different, obviously, from 16 years serving as mayor, but it's the same in that it's about people. For me, that's always been my driver. I love people. I like to help people. When we first started talking about me coming and working with you, that's what kind of hooked me and brought me in, was that you have the same heart. You're really there to help people. Seeing over the last couple of months how when people come to the office to hire you, they're at some kind of a crisis point in their life, and they are looking for help, and it's about their life. I mean, it's important stuff. And you take it so seriously, and I kind of describe you as a dog on a bone, like you're gonna get to the bottom of it. You're gonna find out. And I love that. I mean, that there's passion there, and I think that's absolutely awesome. So that's why, I agreed to come in, and then over the last couple of months, seeing it in action and getting to meet people and hear their stories, it's really been great. Very excited to be working alongside you and excited about the work that we're doing.
I appreciate it. So would you agree that we kind of have people's lives in our hands?
Yes, absolutely.
And
no doubt.
Taking them through the process.
Yes.
And the healing of it. So I'm just so excited that you could come. And when people were appalled to say, Linda, the retired mayor, I'm like, look, I know this woman is tough as nails. And if she is as good at my agency as she was as the mayor, we're good to go. So the name of this podcast is Trains, Planes, and Automobiles. So as I was reflecting on how a person, an agency or corporation needed to use us, it didn't dawn on me until we were having some conversations, Linda, about how you can have a very specific event or very specific situation and both be dealing with the criminal actions of it and the civil actions of it at the same time with the same event. And so it brought me back to 3 of my cases that were just so profound.
These are exciting cases. I mean, they're just very, very interesting, and I'm excited for you to talk about them.
So the trains. It was back in probably 2015 that there was a very famous movie that was being made in Savannah. And in that movie was depicted about the Allman Brothers and the upbringing of the Allman Brothers and what they went through. And so there was this very, very long railroad tracks and a train that's supposed to go over a big river near a manufacturer. And so we're talking about a long path. And obviously my client, Randall Miller from California, and his wife, could-be partner at the time, was producing this movie. And Savannah's a pretty big place to get movies done, and everybody was excited. Unfortunately, they're filming on the tracks, literally filming on the tracks, and they have a bed, and they have all the film equipment and everything. And to their amaze and their shock, here comes a train.
Terrifying.
A train. And I saw some of the film, so everybody's taking a pause, like, is that truly a train? And I didn't know this, but trains can calculate how fast they're going. So they were going like 60 to 80 miles an hour. So it wasn't going slow. It was going very, very fast. And everybody had to move equipments, move themselves, which obviously they couldn't jump in the river. So the terrifying thing was they had to literally go to the edges of the track and just pray that small little space as it's going by, destroy equipment cameras, but not destroy them.
Yeah.
Including the actors and everything. So unfortunately, a young female filmmaker lost her life. And in doing that, my client, Mr. Randall Miller, great filmmaker person that he is, did get permission to film this film right there at that time. All the requirements that he has to file, that all happened. And obviously, he's not on the tracks at the time, but he's there. And so it was just so nerve-wracking as far as gathering statements. I wasn't brought into the case till probably 6 months after Randall Miller getting arrested criminally. So there's the act, and he's arrested criminally, even though he's not even on the train. He's not telling people what to do. He's just managing. And supposedly they did want to go after his partner criminally, but he was arrested. And this had never happened. Like a movie producer of the movie never happened.
Yeah.
And one of my jobs was to prove exactly the county that the river was on when it happened. And believe it or not, it was not in Wayne County. It was in Long County. So there was the first, you've been prosecuted in Wayne County criminally, and everybody is from the South. Everybody knows everybody. I went down there the first time to get open records request, and it took a day and a half. It was just a very, very in-depth investigation.
Yeah.
So when I was looking through my notes of this case, because my guy ultimately, pled to a lesser charge, and I found my report, and I called it Trail of the Midnight Rider. So I wanted to read my report. I don't normally do this, but I'd like to read my report. The CSX train engineer and conductor admit to not using any brakes until impact to attempt and avoid a minimized accident. Investigator, now this is very important, investigator Joe Gardner, which was the investigator for Wayne County that criminally arrested my client, Randy Miller, deposition diagram of criminal justice system breakdown, and he was deposed of Wayne County by prosecutor John M. Johnson. So here again, you have a civil case.
Right.
So there was several civil cases, meaning monetarily cases, that sparked from her death. The railroad, the freight production, the train. So there was several cases that went out civilly for the same exact incident. Deposition of location manager Charlie Baxter, continued in deposition for John B. Johnson regarding the role of the location manager, statements regarding Mr. Baxter receiving a notice about not having permission to film on the second other train tracks, because there was another train track on the other side. There's also a deposition of Tina Kicklighter, Rayonier Lizion, including notes taking of conversation with Charlie Baxter, location scout, and sharing of information with Jack Parrott, Rayonier general manager. Now, Rayonier was the corporation that was near the river. There was Rayonier right there. There's the river, the water, and then you've got the train tracks, which was CSX. Miss Kicklighter supposedly lies about being on the trestle during the location of the scout visit. So before the movie was being filmed, there was a situation where everybody came together and talked to the engineers, talked to Rayonier, talked about everything before they started filming.
Sure. So that's part of setup. They have to figure out where is everything going to be, do they get permission, and how is it going to work logistically, right? So they did all of that.
Safety.
Yeah.
Timing.
Yeah.
Was there going to be any trains that day?
Yeah.
So train brakes, train whistle report, and Joe Gardner admits to not interviewing the train engineer. Now, this is very important because that would be like one of the number ones that you'd want to do, because there was a camera on the train.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you want to look at the train book? Why wouldn't you want to?
That doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
None at all. So the prosecutor for the criminal case, John B. Johnson, said that the interview did occur. So now you're having prosecutors and arrest and law enforcement kind of having a different opinion.
Yeah.
Engineer Michael Ryan said his statement was not wanted by the police, meaning he was the engineer, the conductor of the train. He also has been involved in previous train accidents. Okay, so that's like really important.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, I pulled that manifesto about him and his training. It wasn't just accidents. He literally had some issues that impaired him sometimes. Okay. And so he admitted this freely. Like he just admitted it.
Like health issues that impaired him? Physical?
Kind of things that can impair you as far as alcohol.
Oh, I gotcha.
He even posted pictures of them on his social media.
Oh, wow.
Also, train video was not provided to the defense, which we are the defense. John Johnson is the prosecution for Wayne County, so we were the defense after filing the motion for discovery, meaning there are a motion for discovery for both criminal and motions for discovery for civil. They all have different times. They all have different language. They all have different things you do for discovery, but it's an informational time. I'm going to share my information with you as a prosecutor. I'm going to share my information with you as an attorney. I'm going to share my information with you as an insurance investigator. So it's like a sharing time.
Right.
And also the jurisdiction, like I said, was in question. I had clear proof. Here's the plat when the river started. You know, here's exactly when the train, here's the impact. So clearly it was not Wayne County's jurisdiction.
Wow.
Clearly. It should have been Long County. And I brought that to everybody's attention. According to Georgia law, the location where Miss Jones was struck by the train is located in Long County. And lead investigator, Nia, agrees. Not the investigator that arrested my client criminally. Wayne County prosecutor also indicted Randy Miller, and Jody Savon, which is his partner, although she was not present at the filming that day. So, yes, they did arrest his partner, to my knowledge, but she wasn't even there that day.
Yeah.
Randy Miller was, but she wasn't even there that day. So that was a little way different.
Yeah.
That's just...
Sounds like overreach, like they were just going for everything they could.
And also being a little manipulative.
Yeah.
Because that's my partner. We have children. You know, she's home.
Right.
You know, you're indicting her too. She wasn't even there. She doesn't have that much ability to be part of the film. Kind of fear tactic.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Investigator Joe Gardner did not interview witnesses, Rayonier employees, including Jack Parrott, who was on a golf cart watching the film be filmed. So he was literally there in a golf cart. And I remember seeing films of like, who is that in the golf cart?
Yeah.
But then again, he works for Rayonier. Supposedly Rayonier did a lot for Wayne County. They were not interviewed by the prosecutor either. So you know, Miss Martinelli here is like the one interviewing people that are there that has not been brought to nobody's attention.
Right.
Like that's the first thing you do as law enforcement, in my opinion, is interview everybody, especially if they were there.
Yeah.
I mean, they could have been filming it. Investigator Joe Gardner was questioned about his finances. This is very interesting because I kind of noticed in the background of this investigator, and as he was being deposed for the civil case, being interviewed, all of a sudden he had a new pool. All of a sudden
the investigator had a new pool.
The investigator that arrested my client had a new pool, had recently a new roof put on his house, and new vehicles. And so this was just very recent. So it was a little suspicious. Gardner purchased 3 cars, installed a new pool, and he had a new roof at the time. Randall Miller and Jody were never interviewed. That's very questionable too. You know, he's there, but she's at home. You're going to go ahead and indict these people, but not even interview them. Randall Miller sends a message to his children of a plea deal. Charges against Jody were dismissed upon the plea made by Randall Miller. Carla Gornis, the CSX, denied support for filming on the trestle, which is recalled approximately 90 seconds later. So there was other film that was part of the film that was being researched. Randall Miller, my client, had no knowledge of CSX denying support for the film on the trestle. trestle, meaning he had documentation, he had permission.
Yeah.
And now CSX is saying, no, that didn't happen. Of course, CSX wants to protect CSX.
Yeah.
Charlie Baxter stated that the email from CSX was not a no plan to stop the filming on the trestle. So it also goes on to the train passed the film crew as they were setting up for the film that day. Those train conductors did observe people near the train tracks, but did not call it on CSX dispatch as outlined in CSX policies. So a lot of time when an event happens, cars, planes, motorcycles, if there is a protocol for that car, that jurisdiction, the train, the plane, we're pulling that to see what they're supposed to do.
Right.
So there was a lot of arguments about that. Wayne County, which is law enforcement lead investigator Nia, agrees that the incident is an unfortunate accident. Sends investigator Joe Gardner to the accident scene in his place. Investigator Joe Gardner holds the film crew on the scene for 6 hours.
Wow.
6 hours. So you're there for 6 hours and not interviewing the main people you're supposed to be interviewing. Common sense a little bit. While allowing the CSX engineer and conductor to leave without being interviewed, as well as never interviewing Rayonier employees. So I do remember speaking to the seasonal lead investigator, Naya, and he was in a situation that he could not be there right then. So he was relying on lead investigator, also Joe Gardner. All these people gave a deposition in the civil case, and like the football player that supposedly unalived his wife, he was prosecuted both criminally and civilly at the same time. And so he gave depositions. So lead investigator Naya and the investigator Joe Gardner saw that the train was speeding. So everybody agreed that the train was speeding at the time. Everybody agreed. Civilly, criminally, the lawsuits, the criminal charges, but nobody could really say what the train was going, even though it was speeding.
Right.
And nobody could really say what they were supposed to be going, speed limit over the river. So CSX engineer and conductor TJ Temples is currently out of service due to speeding. One of the persons on the train at the time, by the time the civil case rolled around, had already been on leave because of him speeding the trains. Everybody's pointing their finger, negligence, who did what, but you notice that nobody from Rayonier, nobody else from the film crew, and nobody on the train was arrested. Just Randall Miller. Supposedly, Randall Miller's civil attorney might have been withholding some exonerating evidence for Mr. Miller, which is evidence to prove that this is totally a different story and you need to listen to Mr. Miller's side. And it was later discovered he had previously relationship with CXS and was protecting those interests, meaning the person civilly for the civil claim was representing Randall Miller, and he didn't know that there was a relationship between his attorney and CSX. So a little bit of conflict.
Yeah.
And that's easy to prove with open records requests that you had represented Delta or something in another action and kind of. So Wayne County presiding judge Anthony Harrison stated that the sentence was imposed upon Randy Miller was an illegal sentence. Now, I so remember this. I'm the one that got this. So I literally walked in this judge's chambers, and I'm pretty sure it was done on 2 occasions. And I literally asked this judge, why did he get such a severe sentence? And the judge said, it was an illegal sentence. I gave him an illegal sentence. I said, sir, would you say that on camera?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, it's the truth. I gave him an illegal sentence. And I, as a private investigator, had no idea what to do with that. I'd never had somebody in their chambers tell me that they gave somebody an illegal sentence. And I'd never saw a judge go on film with a TV station down there, radio station, and admit that too.
Wow, yeah.
So there was a lot that went on behind the scenes to make that sentence not so severe. I recorded all this and had it all in recordings. I'm not mistaken, but I think he really just only did maybe 12 months, a little bit over 12 months at the Wayne County Jail, and did help the sheriff there produce some films. So that really worked out. Charges were dropped against his partner, but it's never really happened since.
Yeah.
Mr. Miller really felt like he was a guinea pig for a massive train situation and dispute that you could imagine the monies.
Oh, sure, yeah. So CSX, just serving for 16 years and dealing with CSX, they're like dealing with a foreign country. They are like an entity unto themselves. They really only, and I don't even want to say report, but let's just use that word, report into the federal government. Everybody knows it. They're very difficult to deal with. So I can't even imagine in this situation where they obviously felt like, we're not going to take responsibility for this death of this woman. What a hard time that would be trying to fight a giant.
Mm-hmm. Even an accident. And you saw this as a mayor.
Yeah.
Because the railroad track goes right through the city of Auburn.
Yeah, 4 crossings in Auburn, yeah.
So I'm sure you've had some issues and situations.
We've had derailments, yep.
And you have to deal with that on all ends.
Yeah. I think it's really good that you're talking about the fact that you can have 2 things going on at the same time, because the everyday person, that's not our world. We don't think about when something happens in our lives that it could be criminal as well as civil.
That's it for part 1 of Trains, Planes, and Automobiles. Stick around for part 2. Please contact us by our website, martinelliinvestigations.com. Martinelli ends in an I. Investigation starts with an I, so that's 2 I's with an S on the end. Our email is MII, and then Georgia spelled out, GeorgiaPI @gmail.com. And please call us anytime at 770-337-3999, 770-337-3999 for a free consultation. Thanks so much and have a great peachy day.